Can't see 'cause I don't have my glasses on. It's fine. Oh my gosh! Welcome back to another magical movie review. It's me, Magic by Molly, and I hope you all are having a wonderful new year so far. Cheers to 2021. I'm excited that we all made it here. I took quite a long break between getting burned out in September, just needing a little break, and then having like an allergic reaction on my face to something in my skincare. Still trying to figure it out. That's too much for you to know. My hair is just as crazy as it was back then, so don't worry, that hasn't changed. I'm just happy that you're here, I'm happy that I'm here, and I'm ready to get started. Hi boy, come here. It's not a New Year video without this boy. Hi boy. He's so very handsome. If you haven't seen a magical movie review before, we break things down into 4 major parts. We've got magical moments, where I talk about things that I enjoyed about the movie or just things that brought me joy. Then we also talk enchanting efforts, things that aren't so great about the film, things I thought could have been done better, or just specific things that may have left question marks over my head. Then we also select a VMP, or a very magical person, that wins the episode. And then last, we top it all off with my rankings of the movies in that series so far. So we are in the MCU series of our magical movie review, and back in September, we left off with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. So this week, we are continuing on with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. We are going in chronological order, so make sure you go back and watch all of the other magical movie reviews for the MCU series so far. Alright, so let's just dive right in with magical moments. Of course, the music, can't deny, it's such a great soundtrack. Again, just like Guardians of the Galaxy 1, a lot of the 80s music kind of just pulsating throughout the entire film just kind of gives me life in general. But especially starting out with Brandy, You're a Fine Girl, it's just such a feel-good song, sets up a good mood for the movie, and just ties us all in later on in the film. And so I just like the way that they use music to connect us to what's happening in the film. And that's not to say that other movies don't do that. Of course, we know that score has a huge impact on our emotions when we're watching films, but something about these songs in particular connecting us to Peter Quill and the whole gang of Guardians, it just, something about it, they just do it better than I think most of the other films do. Of course, we can't go past Baby Groot. Baby Groot himself is just super precious. Throughout the whole movie, he kind of gives you that childlike perspective on the whole situation, which is crazy because it's literally a baby helping save the universe. So it's just, I think, a good representation of like everyone's innocence throughout their whole lives while trying to battle and take care of themselves at the same time. Like, I think there's a deeper meaning there. My stale brain isn't really thinking of it very well right now, but I think there's something to say about everyone, one, being connected to an animated creature like Rocket. Like any other movie, animated creatures in these films tend to get a lot of emotional response, so that's magical in itself. But the fact that it's a baby and we all seem so protective of it, even though the baby itself is in these dire situations, willingly and able to protect itself, and yet we are totally entranced by him and would be devastated if anything happened to baby Groot. Of course, we were all devastated when normal size Groot sacrificed himself, but of course he came back, so there was a little bit of return on that emotional investment there. So Baby Groot, super cute, gives us all like purpose when watching the movie and makes us feel a little bit more human as we're watching all of these Guardians murder people. So I think that that's a magical thing in itself. I don't know why I didn't really notice it in the first film of Guardians, but In this film, Drax's laugh is so incredibly infectious. Like, every time he laughs at something, it makes the joke seem that much funnier. And it's in this weird situation where it's never funny when somebody explains the joke, but when Drax does it, we all die laughing. I don't know if it's Bautista that's doing that, or just the writing is really good, the situation is good. In a world where we've created kind of a, you can't explain your own joke that's lame, or that's kind of a punchline in itself, has kind of just made another joke all on its own in Guardians 2. So I appreciate that about Drax, because he just kind of explains all of the jokes as we're going along. But the fact that he just dies laughing and his laugh is like half yelling, I die laughing every single time. I just think it's incredibly funny and it's infectious. I can't not at least smile when he laughs at something. Also, in Guardians 1, I could care less about Yondu as a character, but of course in this movie he has so many incredibly redeeming qualities, like from beginning to end. Like, he gets his own character arc. The whole explanation of him and Peter and how that all came to be just has so much more meaning, so I just respect his character more, even if we didn't figure out who he really was or what he really did at the end. I just thought so much more of him because he had just like this inner turmoil about who he was as a Ravager and where his loyalties actually lie and who he actually cares about. So I just thought that was really good. Plus, the mohawk, I think that should have been his headpiece from the beginning. The mohawk looks way more badass than just like the little slim piece that sit on top of his head for the arrow. And then, of course, one of the best lines in the MCU series, in my opinion, when Yondu is floating down with his arrow and he says, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." I cannot help but laugh every single time. And I've seen this movie multiple times now, to the point where, like, I'm expecting it, I know it's coming, but it's just so innocent. And Mary Poppins is a badass, and like, he should be proud to be Mary Poppins. Like, I just think that that's so incredibly funny. I love it a lot. Migrating into enchanting efforts in the Yondu realm, when I'm looking at all of the Ravagers, one, I mean, I don't put a lot of stake into just what they look like or anything, because I know it's kind of like a ragtag team of people just finding some purpose in life. But Taserface is just a ripoff of an orc in Lord of the Rings. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. He's an orc, and it's disappointing. When they're all in the ship together and everybody's asleep, what I don't understand is, like, they're all in the same room together, and why are they all sleeping on top of each other? Like, that ship is freaking huge. Like, they could all probably at least have some space to themselves. I don't know why that bothers me so much. Maybe it's because they're a brotherhood and they're all they have and they just want to feel touch from another living being, but like, y'all got the space. You can spread out a little bit. Like, y'all are probably giving each other COVID right now. Like, it's gross. Or I guess they've been quarantined together in space for ever, so maybe it's not a problem. Who knows? Anyway, I just like personal space, so that bothers me. I think it's one of the things that I sort of like about the movie, and that makes it a little bit different. Similar to Guardians 1, is it too much comedy again, especially in the more serious parts, but especially like the fight scenes. As we go on, Marvel is getting more and more good at the fight scenes. Like, cinematically they're beautiful, the actors are improving on their training as we go, so just like their skill as in stage combat is incredible. So when they're making jokes back and forth all the time throughout all of the fight scenes, it just kind of takes me out of it just a little bit. Like, for example, when they're in the core of Ego and what's her face, Mantis gets like knocked over by that boulder, and then Drax goes like, Mantis, look out. Like, okay, yeah, Drax is a dummy, but like that wasn't even really that fun. Like, they're almost injecting too much humor into the parts that don't need it to just kind of bank on how much humor they can fit in a fight. So it just takes me out of it a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of comedy during the fight scenes. I think there's a time and a place where you can bookend it a little bit. Like, I don't think you should take it out completely. That's not what I mean. I don't know. It's just too much. Also, while they're in the core, Groot has the bomb that he's gonna put on Ego's innards. I don't know why it bothers me so much, but that's when I noticed it, that he finally gets down to the middle, and his core, the center of his being, looks like a human brain. And he's supposed to be this celestial being that's all powerful, all knowing, kind of like the center of his own universe, and yet his existence looks exactly the same as ours. Like, I think that took me out of it a little bit, and then I reflected back on his house slash tribute museum to himself, because that's basically what his house is. I don't know, I feel like we could have been more creative in that aspect, like a celestial being, maybe the core of his being looks like a little tiny Milky Way, or some kind of special something. Not to say that the human brain isn't special, because it is, and it is capable of doing a lot, and maybe there's some poetry there to say that we're all powerful in our own right within our own brain. I just wasn't into it. It left me with a big question mark of, is that the only thing they could come up with for the center of Ego's being? So for my VMP, I'm actually gonna have to give it to a combo of Yondu and Rocket. I think their bonding experience in the movie really hit home for me. I think they both had a very similar character arc, and when I was going through all the characters, the pros in their columns seemed to be almost the same, which may kind of be an enchanting effort on its own. Maybe we could have diversified there just a little bit, but I think it says a lot that we can find family in the most unexpected places, and these people who outwardly are so cold and they're thieving and they seem to not care about a lot of people end up being the ones that mean the most to Peter in particular, but to all of them. Like, they would do anything to protect what's theirs and their family, and they're my dynamic duo for VMP, so it's very magical persons this week. But I'd love to hear more about what you guys think. VMPs are getting harder and harder to pick, especially when we get into the later MCUs, because a lot of the characters are the same. We're just having the same characters over and over, and so they all are getting more special and more dynamic in their own way. So I'd love to hear from your perspective on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Who do you think should wear the crown this week? Okay, so that does bring us to the rankings, or my rankings, of the MCU movies so far. Would love to hear your perspective on this as well, because I know we all have our desert island list of the movies that we would prefer to bring with us. But for me, my list is as follows: The Avengers, Iron Man, Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, Iron Man 3, Captain Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, and Thor Dark World. Again, it's getting really hard, and because I had such a big gap between Guardians 1 and Guardians 2, I actually took a look at the list that I had written down, and I was already questioning why I put movies in certain places. So I think there's some room for me to change those up as we go along, like maybe reorder some. And I think that's the beauty of having this community where we talk about it openly, the things that we like, things that we don't like about the MCU movies specifically. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people digging into the history of these movies and the interconnectedness of them all. So I'm willing to listen to anybody else's perspectives, because just learning more information just allows me to soak it in and just adjust and see where we go from there. So to everyone watching this video, I really appreciate your support. I know it's been a long time since I've been here, so I just appreciate you coming back here and listening to me, and I hope you all enjoyed today's video. I'm gonna get back on track. I am gonna build myself some breaks because I did get a little crazy there just doing so many magical movie reviews in a row, and I want to keep my sanity for a little while longer. Please, if you can, go ahead and hit subscribe with the notification bell so that you can be notified every time a magical movie review gets posted. Like this video, share it with your friends if you think that they have some good opinions that you would like for them to share with me, and we can all collaborate together. If you're interested, I'm on all of the other social medias, I think. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at MagicXMolly. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful 2021, and stay weird.